From Objective Productions comes a groundbreaking new format.
This is so difficult.
The Cube.
I'm Mika Salmi. I am currently the chairman of Sulake, which is the Habbo hotel teen virtual world. I'm also on the board of directors of quite a few companies, including Blinkbox, Inked, Image Metrics, and Songbird. I just left in April from Viacom, where I was the president of global digital media. Prior to that, I was the founder and CEO of Atom Entertainment, which included Atom Films, Shockwave, and Addicting Games. And prior to that, I was in the music industry for about 8 years. I've been in this business, or in the digital business, for almost 15 years. And back in '99, there was this kind of craze where all the media companies wanted to get into digital. And then when it all fell apart in 2001, I think they all said, phew, I'm glad that thing passed us by. We're in the clear. The internet's not going to happen. I got the sense that they thought. And then it all came back again. And they actually jumped in fairly aggressively, including my old company Viacom, bought some companies, jumped in fairly aggressively. But now with the worldwide recession and advertising market collapsing, other things, it feels like a lot of companies have pulled back again. I'm not saying that they're denying the internet like they did in 2001, but they definitely pulled back a little bit, which has been interesting to watch. They're not nearly as aggressive as they were for a while. Murdoch is talking about charging and. So it's definitely kind of evolved back again, which is I think understandable from their perspective because they have to kind of protect their core, but it's also a bit disheartening because I thought we were making some progress in terms of really moving the media business to a new business model and a new mode of doing business. So I think the major trends are that, like I said before, that they're probably going to pull back a little bit. I think there's going to be more conservative in terms of how much of their content they're going to make available digitally, digitally being online, on the mobile, and in digitally connected television. So I think there's going to be a little bit of conservatism, I think, in that approach. At the same time, I think you'll see some aggressive players, maybe from the inside, but definitely from the outside, really trying to invent some new ways of doing things, because there's a whole new distribution paradigm that's kind of emerged, which is Facebook and social networks, which no one's really touched into yet in terms of to the video, in terms of kind of as a media. So I think that's an area that we'll see some interesting kind of innovation in. I was looking at what's happening in the games industry, and a lot of media people, a lot of TV people think that the games industry is this kind of great hope and they're just this incredibly successful business, and gee, wouldn't it be great if we had a games business underneath our umbrella of brands. And the reality is the games business has had a lot of turmoil, especially in the last couple of years. They haven't done necessarily all that well, and in terms of the traditional games business, which is a box product business. But what has done well are some of these new companies that are mainly doing their business on Facebook or on MySpace or a little bit on the iPhone. And there are companies with names like Playfish, Zynga, Social Gaming Network, what else is there? Playdom. There's a whole bunch of these companies, and they're basically called social games. And one of the most interesting things about them is that most of them, they might have a website. You can go to Zynga.com, but Zynga.com is more of a corporate website. But you don't play games there. You play games only on Facebook. So they've really approached this kind of distributed model with their games. Second of all, they have, the games aren't really anything that special, to be honest, but what they've done is that from the ground up, they've built a game that really plays upon the social fabric and your social profile on these websites and connects you with your friends or connects you with your interests even. And so they've built a game from the ground up thinking about what is the platform it is on. And the second part of it is also that they've not only they built a kind of game built based on the platform, they've also built a business model based on the platform. So they have things like microtransactions, or they have what are called offers in terms of if you look at an offer from Netflix, you might get more points for the game. Or if you watch an ad, you might get more points for the game. Or you can buy more points for the game. So there's different ways for you to get, because you basically want to elevate yourself in the gameplay, and so you need to get these points, so there's many ways to do it. And so they look at the business model also from the way the distribution channel is. And what I find fascinating about it is that not only are they making hundreds of millions of dollars, but they've really stunned everybody. There was like, what happened? Where do these companies come from? How do they do this? And if you look at what they've done, they've taken the games business and made it a service business. And if you look back in the games industry, the first one to really have a service angle was World of Warcraft, which was a massive multiplayer game. And they were able to have an ongoing relationship with the consumer, essentially. That made it a service. And they really looked at it from the business basis that it's not about just sending someone a product and taking your money and walking away from that customer. It's actually having a relationship with the customer, a two-way relationship. And so I looked at that and I said, wow, look at that. That's, games as a service is kind of a new thing. And then I looked back, where that came from essentially was software as a service, which has been around for about 10 years, being pioneered by a company called Salesforce.com. And now you're seeing it across the board with Google and even Microsoft.net, and everyone's looking at how you do software as a service. So I looked at software as a service, then games as a service, and I thought, wow, wait a minute. Is there a broader model of media as a service? How would that look like if you looked at media as a service, as opposed to media just being a consumer product that is a discrete product you ship off, whether it be over the air on the broadcast airwaves or over DVD, or even on an internet download or something, and then you're done with it. It's more of a service relationship with a media product. And so I wrote an article about it, basically kind of analyzing what does it mean to be a service, and can a video, essentially a video product, be a service. And what's interesting is that it's less about everyone go and try to figure this out necessarily, but it's like, well, how would you, if you were going to look at a completely new distribution channel, being basically Facebook or MySpace or even the iPhone, and how would you approach the content? How would the content be differentiated compared to just in the past? What you would do is you would just repurpose your content. So I think this is a little bit different. Someone would say, well, geez, the internet, everyone would say, we don't repurpose for the internet, but lo and behold, with broadband, we can repurpose and you can watch an HD show, and it's just basically the same thing. Agreed, and I think that will continue on, but I do think that there is another way of looking at it, and I think that if anyone's a real pioneer in this, they will potentially be just like these little small games companies that are making hundreds of millions of dollars. They will discover a new vein of not only revenue, but also of popularity and a content type. The only one that's real concrete right now, there's a few actually that have done this out there. The best one is just coincidentally, they just released it 2 weeks ago. It was by Ashton Kutcher. Has his little think tank or his little company called Catalyst. And they released something called Catalyst HQ, which is a series of small episodes, and they released it only on Facebook via a company called Slide. They have an app, I think it's called FunSpace, which is basically a video app. And they, in the first week, had 9 million views of the first episode of Catalyst HQ, which is kind of an office type of reality show. It takes place in the Catalyst office, I think in Los Angeles or something. And but they built it from the ground up to be played in Facebook. And they have some product placement, some other things. They don't really take advantage of the business models they could. So I kind of call it a 0.5 effort, a version 0.5 effort in the marketplace. But it does kind of point the direction that media as a service could take. And I think some creative minds who really look at this in a very different way and really approach it from the ground up, as opposed to just repurposing some content, could really have a lot of success in the market. So the economic environment is difficult today, and it could make it very difficult to experiment because people's budgets are smaller, and the revenue, especially from advertising, is questionable. And I'm here at Mipcom, and I look around at all these companies that produce shows, and they have banners and DVDs, and they're trying to sell their shows. And I think obviously if you can sell your show, but at the same time, you might take a little of that marketing money and try something with yours, because what you want is distribution. So, and it's not about building your own website. You could have your own company. You can have your entire product, your entire series play within Facebook. So maybe you should take a little bit of that money and experiment and see if you could maybe turn it into something. Or again, I'm talking about maybe repurposing, but if you could possibly at all early in the stage say, we're going to build something just for Facebook, And the good thing about there is that you can do transactional models as opposed to just advertising models. And so there's other ways to make revenue besides in advertising, basically to get money direct from the consumer. Some it's subscription, some it's pay-per-view, other ones it's maybe, as I mentioned before, you might have an offer or something that people have to watch an offer first, and so it's almost like a direct marketing piece to it. So I think with the current economic model, I think in some ways you're probably going to have a harder time selling your show. So maybe take part of that budget for next year, where you're going to produce a whole slate of things you're hoping to sell. Take part of that, and maybe produce something for Facebook and MySpace and for the iPhone, but from the ground up again. I wouldn't just repurpose the old stuff that didn't sell from before and just throw it up there and hope for the best. Though that's a starting point at least, I guess.
How about your legacy at Viacom and MTV? Do you feel that you set the company off on the right track there? And are they achieving some of the things that you are talking about now?
I had a fairly successful run at Viacom. We basically quadrupled our revenue over the almost 3 years I was there, digital revenue. Our traffic grew. I think we became much more focused as a company in terms of what we need to achieve. There are a lot of things like that, I think. But as I stated before, the current economic environment has meant that they've pulled back a little bit from putting more content online. We were planning to build these vertical websites, and they're still out there, and they're doing quite well. But I think they're pulling back a little bit, mainly not because there wasn't success in digital, but it's just because they had to really focus where they were, the core of their business, which was in cable. In the U.S. and working with the cable operators, and I think some of the things that in the digital side we were really pushing ran counter with Comcast and Time Warner and Sky in the UK, for example, what they really wanted us to do. So I think there's been a slight pullback, but I would say that I would hope my legacy is good there. I think my relationships are good. I think everyone was fairly happy with what I did there. So but I think the economic environment has slightly affected them really being more aggressive and kind of following, the path that I was setting. So I think it's pulled back a little bit. So my view on TV everywhere and Hulu's micropayment potential is that I like the idea that you should be able to watch more programming where you want it. So that was, so the question is how you get there, and if it means in some cases working with the cable operators and figuring out some kind of authentication system, I think that's a great idea, but I think actually in execution it's almost impossible. It's really difficult to execute that. It's really hard to figure out the technology around it, the consumer behavior around it too. It just puts lots of barriers in front of something that should be much simpler. So I wish it was something that was seamless. And in that case, it definitely would make a little bit of sense, and I can see the rationale behind it. I think there's probably another mode around it where you make it much more of a hybrid model, and you include the cable operators in it. So it's something that's much more free and a little more frictionless, but they're not necessarily getting left out of the equation, which I think is what they're worried about. And Hulu, in terms of them introducing a pay model, is very interesting because they've been seen as a big success, but the reality is that they're not making that much money compared to what they would make on broadcast. And so I think Murdoch is saying, oh, geez, we need to put up a paywall. And he's a big fan of that. They did it at Wall Street Journal and in other places. So I think it'll be an interesting challenge for Hulu. And the good thing is that Hulu has this amazing content and these great partners. So they are a good experiment point for a lot of people to see if it works or not. So if they are forced to do it and their traffic collapses or goes down, or if they do it and their traffic stays the same or they make a whole bunch of money, it shows a great model for other people. So in some ways, Hulu will be a bellwether for the rest of the industry if what they do.
שלום. קרה לך פה משהו מצחיק?
Everyone in the world has at least one funny story to tell. Just imagine an unlimited access to great ideas for sketches. Well, we went ahead and made it into a TV show. Funny Side Up is a new and unique reality primetime comedy format that combines fully scripted sketches based on real-life stories.
הוא בא עם מרשם של ויאגרה ושאל מה דעתנו.
ויאגרה מופעל שניידר?
למה את מופתעת?
The show's team walks around the streets and interviews random people inside business places and on the street, asking to share their funny stories. Each episode revolves around a different subject matter: beauty, health, celebrities, or sports. Hey, anything goes.
שלום. קרה לך פה סיפור מצחיק?
No matter where our hosts go and who they run into, the people's reactions are always spontaneous.
Oh Lord, save my soul.
Funny, and very usable.
Very, very good in Israel, very, very good.
Very good, Israel. You have a funny story that happened to you in Israel?
Yes, funny story is good.
After the stories are told, a team of comedians picks the funniest stories
היום היא באה עם ווקמן עם אוזניות, והיא פשוט צריכה לקוחות, תעזרו לי, תעזרו לי, תעזרו לי!
and performs them, perfecting the twist and narration to hilarious sketches.
איך מחליפים בשיר?
יום אחד אחד מהם נכנס וביקש ממני פטיש מאוד מאוד גדול.
גדול, קטן? גדול, כבד. לא ממתכת, כן? שלא ישאיר לי סימנים.
כנראה שאמור לעשות הרבה נזק, אם אתה מבין למה אני מתכוון.
The show is a great opportunity for real, funny, and heartwarming moments, allowing everyday people to be a star for a moment.
מי היית מלהג?
During the show, the hosts ask people who they would like to see portray them, thus also giving the possibility for special celebrity appearances every week.
טוב, אז מאיפה נתחיל?
שם. בואי.
The format successfully combines mockumentary,
זה לא מצחיק. אבל זה מצחיק.
real-life interviews, and scripted sketches,
סליחה? אולי תמצצי לי?
מיד.
thus creating a new genre of entertainment.
מצחיק, לא?
Funny Side Up. What's your funny story?
And this guy's gotten that set for 3 months. With the pilot gone, I'm the only person here.
I want this to be like a secret garden.
Live to fight and work another day.
You just gotta be ready to react to it. If you get scared and piss your pants something, you're gonna be in a whole lot of trouble because they're gonna eat you alive. They're gonna beat the crap out of you.
From From Objective Productions comes a groundbreaking new format.
This is so difficult.
The Cube. In The Cube, just 7 simple games stand between you and £250,000. These games should be simple, but the intense pressure inside the cube makes them seem much more difficult. Each contestant is given 9 lives with which to beat the cube and walk away with the jackpot. One by one, the cube selects a challenge to be completed from a bank of over 50 games.
Elevation, cylinder, multi-sphere.
Once you start, you're committed, that's it. It's just you against the cube for 20k.
These games get more and more difficult as the show goes on. Along the way, the cube can offer contestants 2 lifelines to aid their journey.
You could lose everything here.
One is to simplify a game, which makes it easier.
Philip, I'd like to simplify this game, please.
You have simplified the game, Richard. The target line has been lowered by 30 centimeters.
The other is a trial run, where they get a free practice go.
It's either 20 or nothing. What are you going to do?
Would you have what it takes to beat The Cube?